Stepping away from Stellenbosch for the next wine,
Yeah.
which is the Gramadoelas. Just a little drive away.
Yeah.
What's the drive, hours-wise?
6 hours.
6 hours.
6
That's not
hours
too bad.
east from the winery.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad.
Just enough windscreen time to think about
At 140
all
or?
of the tasting notes.
Yeah. So Klein Karoo?
This is essentially Klein Karoo, yes.
Okay.
Klein Karoo is a massive region.
Thank you.
Actually, if you just speak about, you know, as a region of South African wine, but yeah. So I'm in a very microcosm of the Klein Karoo. That's far to the east. That's if you think of Klein Karoo, we tend to think of maybe Montetjie, Calitzdorp, Oudtshoorn at the most. This is on your way to Willowmore. So this is further east than that. So this is going past Oudtshoorn still. At the foot of the Swartberg Mountains, close to Meiringspoort, a very unique area of South Africa.
On the edges of Addo.
Not close there, no, it's not so lush yet. But yeah, for me, this is a passion project of, well, Gramadoelas started off as also paying a focus on our viticultural frontiers. You know, Stellenbosch, it has been, it is, and it will be. But here in the Klein Karoo, I mean, this is far to the east. I mean, people farm here mostly with rocks and ostriches. So it's
farming with rocks.
No, I mean it's a rocky landscape, and you know it's not common there to farm viticulture. But after spending quite a bit of time in Spain and falling in love with Grenache Blanc, working there, it's a variety that it's a lot planted on granite in South Africa still. There's not a lot of it on schist. I mean, there's here and there some pockets on shale, but it's still seen as a kind of obscure variety. But back in the day, there used to be a lot more. I think Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay took a bit of that viticultural ambitions away in the 80s and 70s. But yeah, I think now, if you look at the Klein Karoo, this is one variety that absorbs those soils, absorbs the continental arid climate well. Sustainably, it works. There's incredible leaves. It can last for long during the vintage without moaning too much. And yeah, when it's given some tender love and care, it can further even go up in quality. Normally it's a neutral variety, especially on a fertile soil, but planting on these conditions and these soil types in these mountains, with that arid conditions, you know, almost 120 millimeters of rain a year. We do have some supplementing water from these crystal pools up in the mountain, because it's close to mountain rock pools, but only when necessary. And yeah, Grenache Blanc keeps a much more leaner acidity and almost minerality for me in those conditions than it would have done on a fertile kind of rainy area that we have closer here, more Mediterranean.
What years were you in Spain, or what year when were you in Spain?
2016, and then again in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, so
and did you, when you were there, were you aware of these vineyards, or did you come back looking for?
That's a bizarre story, because after my first visit, I came back and then I planted some. I was already convinced of doing Grenache Blanc, but I planted some experimental vineyards around the Klein Karoo, closer to Van Wyksdorp, in the mountains there, about 20 different varieties. And over a few years, a lot of my results show that this is by far the best looking young vines. Even after 3 years, they react well, they grow well, they crop well. Not overly much, but yeah, they have the opportunity for that if a producer would have wanted to go that direction. So it was kind of obvious. I went back to Spain. I worked again with it, a lot more in Monsant area, but also, you know, around Pabuleta and those areas in Priorat. And I find that there's a detail in the acidity that I haven't really gotten with some South African Grenache Blanc. And you know, a lot of the farmers there also just keep on speaking with me about the relationship between the schist and also with that element. And climate-wise, looking at my hypothesis of the Klein Karoo, you know, but then you can't just choose, you know, I want the Grenache Blanc in the Klein Karoo. So I've had an idea on the Klein Karoo exactly where these kind of soils and climate area is, and then met somebody in Johannesburg actually who owns a farm down there. And I was speaking to someone random about this idea of mine, and he said he knows someone with a farm up there with some vineyards, and there was a guy from Winpro that actually did do some special unique plantations up on his farm. And I said, well, I'll go have a look up there. He doesn't know which variety is there, but his farm manager is there. I went there, flew down the next day, drove up there. There's that 1 hectare Grenache Blanc exactly in the spot where I hoped to have grown Grenache Blanc in the Karoo. So it's like finding a needle in the ocean, not a haystack. because there is another Grenache Blanc in the Klein Karoo. And it's already 2009 planted. It's not very old, but I mean already now, it's got some age on it. And with the sunshine in that area, the sap flow is also restrained, so it can almost have that complexity and detail that maybe a 25 or 30-year-old vineyard almost can have, which is great for me to see.
It seems like it's a very harsh environment. So
no, it is. So things tend to age quicker.
And obviously, you use Grenache Blanc from the Fuapaderberg, which is probably, for a lot of us, the major area for Grenache Blanc in South Africa. Obviously, there's the Grenache Blanc vineyard that that a lot of people take from. What are the main differences you see between the two areas?
Speed of ripening. Okay. It's a bit quicker in the Paardenberg than it is in the Karoo.
And is that just because of granitic soil? Is it just lighter granitic soil, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's also some. It is a little bit more windy up here in the Paardenberg, and
diurnals would also probably be quite different.
Yeah, and then definitely there's a little bit more solar panels. So in the end, there's more leaves on these soils. The plants are a little bit more happier in these conditions than they are up in the Karoo. So having more of that speeds up the sugar ripening process a little bit. So it goes quick for Grenache Blanc, a bit quicker here than it does in the Karoo. It's long and slow. And if it's a variety that has, because it has quite thick leaves, hardy leaves, and if we have more of those closer to the bunch zone, and it ripens later in February in the Karoo, it's perfectly shaded from the sun. So it keeps that freshness, lime characters, and they train a little bit higher. So they're not too warm, and they can keep the lean and freshness much more for me than a vineyard here, where the sugar ripeness goes past the phenolic ripeness sometimes on granite. Where here the phenolic ripeness is always first before the sugar ripeness, and that's something I like to focus on.
There's a lovely mid-pellet weight to this wine as well, which is something that Grenache Blanc sometimes not necessarily known for is mid-pellet weight. And that's is that a hallmark of the vintage? Because I didn't really see that in the 21
so
that much, or is it? You getting used to the vineyards getting used to you, a combination of things.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of. The vintage being a little bit longer. So 2021, it was almost the second week or just after the first week in Feb harvest. This is almost at the last days of February. Okay. So I spend a lot of extra time on the vine without gaining more sugar, but just gaining a lot of...
almost more dry extract or something.
Yeah, so more extract and more intensity and flavour. And that was for me beautiful. I could have gone and picked it earlier, but I just said, hang on. And then before I went up there to harvest this. And and then also in the winery is also the vintage where I introduced a little bit of batonnage, a little bit more reductive winemaking. I think that also keeps a bit of energy and mid-palate to the wine in the end.
And same sort of one night of cold soaking?
Just a short time on the skins, cold soaking before pressing, and then further fermentation in older barrels, and kept on the lees for 9 months before bottling.
Really lovely. And again, it's got this sort of seamless minerality, saltiness in the finish. It doesn't, sometimes this sort of saltiness can be quite separate to the fruit, but it seems very intrinsic, overlapping, integrated is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's a unique vineyard, and it's small, it's 1 hectare, and not everything of it survives. It is Karoo soils, so it means sometimes we have stratification happening in the soils because of drought and a little bit of water, and then some of the vines can struggle.
So stratification?
So that happens when the soil is dry essentially, then we get some rain, and then it's dry for a long period, then some of the salts in the nutrients don't go all the way down, and if that happens over a long period of time, it starts crusting underneath the soil. It gets almost like unbearing for some of the roots.
Yes, okay.
Instead of like a lot of water just flowing and rushing it away.
Understand.
It starts to stratificate there.
Yeah.
So that happens sometimes in Karoo soil. So some of the vines, it is a hectare vineyard, but I do harvest like a bird here. So I select all the best vines and all those grapes to come to me.
Fair enough.
But we do efforts to do more.
Short, 15-hour round trip for you?
Sometimes it's 26 hours because it's up, down.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's a beautiful place, and I hope that if there's somebody out there with viticulture and is still, thinking about what variety to plant, and please, Sauvignon Blanc does struggle with that up there. If they can find, maybe that there's a reason to look at a different variety that could be economically viable, I think Grenache Blanc is a good approach sustainably, and I hope some other people will catch on to it, because I think farmers out there really need to see the potential of a variety like this in that area.